This is my Imperial Shuttle. It's from Star Wars, and if I don't sing this song myself, copyright will flag it and it won't be cool. But this is, on the other hand, very, very cool. We've got our rail system in here, and that means we can do some really cool stuff with logic and with some movement. The key thing with this particular shuttle is the ability to fold the wings. You can see that. You can see we can lower and raise our landing pads or our landing gear, and we can move the wings as well, which is really cool. If we fly under, we also have the little boarding door at the bottom, which opens like so. We can walk up and then push the button and it closes again. So, which is really good. You can see we're making use of our buttons. We've got a nice open area for people to sit, and we got the core at the back, and we've got our cockpit up the front. So we got all the key things that you want in a good old shuttle. Nice view from our seats up here. You can see you've got a wide view of what's happening. It's actually a really nice design, really functional. So if we fly into the core, you can see just how this ship is made up. You can see here we've got a ship for our boarding ramp. You can see the cores just there if I flip it down, and you can also see our rail dockers facing the side. Now I've had to pull some blocks out so it moves because we're still in the dev build. We're in dev build 0.19197. We've also got a camera pointing sideways so I could aim the beam a little bit easier when we're debugging. One of the problems that's happening still is that when you unlog or you log off and turn the server off and you come back in, sometimes these bits are facing in weird directions. So we got, well, it's not labeled, but we got one wing, we got the other wing, and then in the interior we also got, just here is our landing gear, which is just a piece on the inside running up and down a rail in just a bit of a more open area, so we get a little bit more distance. Now these landing gear or landing gear is designed to line up with our front little nose bit. If I switch light and mode off, you can see that. So it actually is designed so that when you land, you are actually supported by all three spots. If we drop our boarding ramp as well, like so, you can see it also lands pretty close to the same level. It's about half a block out. Now one of the things that I found after building the entire ship was the core placement for my actual ship. The one that this is all built on is here in the back. The problem with that is that it's behind these landing pads or landing gear. It's not in between. So all my weight is actually pivoting at the back, because at the moment that's our point on which we're actually rotating. It's our center of gravity. Even if that's really impractical, logically speaking, the center of gravity would be in the middle. But at the moment, because it's all based around the core, it's actually at the back. So you go to try and land on anything and it tips on backwards. So this is just Mark 1. Obviously, there'll be other iterations of it. But, you know, when you are trying out some really cool logic options, you want to be able to try it with all the really cool stuff attached. It has all the bells and whistles. And to be able to rotate or set the rotation for different parts at different degrees and toggle between them. So a lot of people have been asking, all right, well, can you do 45 degrees? Can you do 90? Can you do 180? Yes, you can do all these different degrees and more. Well, a little bit more. So right here you can see we've got 90 and 45. So like so. So that gives us, what is that, 135, I think? It's late, so my math isn't exactly the best, but you can see we've got that movement from all the way up to around. Now to, am I still in build mode? No, I'm not in build mode, which is good. Alright, so we'll fly over to one of these platforms and show you how it is done. So what we've got here is we've got our, I'll jump in because it gives all the labels. We have our rail rotator clockwise block. Now if I hit C on it, you can see we've got this particular piece attached, and it's got all these different activation modules that it is connected to. So notice that it's connected to it. We have no other rail blocks connected to it. In this case I have an AND, but you could easily use an activator, but I just like using the AND connected up to it. Actually no, I'll explain why we need the AND in a sec. But essentially what we can do is up to 7 of these at the moment we can set and use them to set how much of a rotation we get each pulse. Now with this bit of a setup you can see here, it's actually designed to just swap our rail rotator clockwise to a counterclockwise over here. You can see it's that one there. They look identical. If we look on the side, we can see they are different blocks. It'll be a lot clearer once we get the actual textures for them. But essentially, we'll go one way and then we'll go back the other way. So if we hit toggle, you can see we move 45 and we move back 45. Now if we toggle 2 on, you'll see we move 90. If we toggle 3 on, well then we're doing the 135 or whatever the math works out to be on that one. 4, we do a full 180. 5, we do another 45 after that. More. We go quite a while around there, and that should bring us back to the start. Almost. I think we need one more. Do. Select, and it's just easy as C, V, switch it on, and go. So this should give us a full 180, which you can see there. No, full 360, sorry. So we've got a whole range of motion. If we turn them all off, you'll see we don't have any rotation at all. So in this way, you're able to control a lot of the motion that you get. So for our actual boarding ramp, what we did was we used a 45. One of these is messed up. Oop. You're toggled on. There we go. So we used a 45 for our main boarding ramp, and then we used the other 135 for the wings, and then just designed it in a way that it works. So you can see we're getting quite a nice amount of rotation on that. The other thing to worth noting is what I'm using is I'm using a activator or a button right next to our rail rotator, and you can see every time that it actually completes its movement to where it's going, it actually triggers that. So I've got that hooked up to a couple of our flip-flops, and now I've got our main flip-flop that triggers going into a flip-flop, as well as our other one going into it, and that goes into 2 AND gates. And then we've got that one that triggers on each one going into the other one, which has a flip-flop and a NOT which goes into each of the AND gates. So this is how each of the AND gates is actually going into, I don't think it needs this button, you could go straight into the rail block and then connect it up, but that's how we're toggling between one side getting triggered and the other side getting triggered. Now one thing worth noting is that obviously if I do this movement here and doing 90 degrees, it's going to take a little bit longer than say 45. So the triggering that happens on this button is quite quick, and so I had to put a flip-flop in here as to just switch off the data sends to the ANDs, because otherwise it was going to get stuck in a loop, and we saw that just a moment earlier. It got stuck in this loop. So that's the setup anyway. So again, rail block that we dock to, you can see there, with an AND gate and a button, and then a button going into our AND gate, and AND gate going into our activator. Now we got to have an AND gate there, because what was happening is, you can see here, we'd trigger the button every time we toggled. Now the other way we could do this is with an activation module, but we'd end up rotating all the time. So that's just a setup that I found that works at the moment in the dev build. It might change in the future, but at the moment I'm very happy with the results that we've had with it, and we've been able to see that with our other ship, which is really cool, just being able to do all the cool things and all the fun things. So, my name is Bench. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.